Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Yeah. You know, yeah.
Right, so call to order, the session of the Plug School Board. Board of Directors. Monday, March 17th, we go ahead and start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll go ahead and read off our mission statement, which is to graduate all students with high levels of academic and personal achievement, ready for post-secondary excellence, prepared for productive, compassionate citizenship through research-based instruction, and a collaborative system of support. Are there any changes, additions to the agenda? We'll go ahead and then move to introduction of our audience tonight.
I'm Nikki Derrick. I'm the new softball coach over at the high school, and I'm just here in observance and for comments at the end. I teach fifth grade at the elementary school. I also have Parker Community freshman standard as well.
Carrie Ranking, I teach second grade at the elementary.
My name is Molly Howell. I teach fourth grade at the elementary, and I have a fourth grader and a first grader.
Jessica Wolby, I teach reading intervention at the elementary.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Brings us to public forum for individuals who are on site during this portion of the board meeting. Members of the public are specifically invited to present items of accommodation and or concerns. At the discretion of the board chair, further public participation may be allowed at the time specific agenda items are under consideration by the board. This is under district policy DDH. For those viewing online, the school district posts the upcoming agenda on our website, pleasanthill.k12.or.us, the Friday before regularly scheduled Monday school board meetings. This will allow for public comment prior to the board meeting. Please click on the tab provided to share your comments with the school board to consider at the upcoming meeting. Personnel matters may not be discussed in public in the school board meeting. Members of the public who have personnel concerns or accommodations should share them directly with the district superintendent, Mr. Grist. With that, I understand we have at least two folks that are wanting to provide public comments.
Oh,
Yeah.
My name's Morgan. I noticed you guys have some open spots in the budget committee. So if you need somebody, I would do that. I've got the time to do that. And I noticed that number 9 on here, the district, we'll call it just equity committee, but hopefully that I get to be a part of that. I wish it was like public comment, but That's all.
My name is Nikki. I'm taking over the softball program. I just wanted to come in and introduce myself, get acquainted with the school district, and I have just heard, and throughout my interview process, that there is a new turf development somewhere in our projects for plan. So I wanted to come in and talk to you guys a little bit about that and just kind of see where we're at as a school district, working with the boosters a little bit on that too, but that's why I'm here is to kind of get that stuff done.
Welcome to the school district.
Thank you, it's been great.
Any other public comment this time? All right, brings us to 5.0 action items. 5.1, March 3rd, board meeting minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. No abstaining since you were here. Well, I should call a student to abstain as well, I guess, if they're going to abstain, so it passes with 3 ayes and 2 abstaining. Well, it's just a really good point. 5.2, accept enrollment report, January and February. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Passes unanimously. 5.2, approved personnel action.
Personnel action that you have in front of you tonight is a, who's retirement. Yeah. It will be until June 30th. Yeah. the complete end of the year.
To approve personal action exhibit 2425.201.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, passes unanimously. 5.3, adopt board policy.
This is the second reading, so it's actually would be the adoption of the effective policies, which are GBNAA and JHFF. And the other side of that, on the personnel side, JHFF and GBNAA. So we've had this discussion in the first read. This is for approval. And just as a reminder, this was from House Bill 4160 in 2024, and it changed the definition of student, changing a student who left school or graduated from high school within 90 days to within 1 calendar year. And it's in effect as of July 1, 2024. It's included in the recommended revisions.
Any questions or concerns there? Not all their motions.
Policy is the 2425. 202 and exhibit 2425 203. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Passes unanimously. Brings us to 6.1 or 6.0, unfinished business. This is referring to a pending motion from the last board meeting regarding resolution number 2425.195.
And I will note that in the new packet, the same resolution, but it's coded as 2425.204.
Okay. So my understanding is that we had a pending motion from the last board meeting that was moved and seconded, and we're at the point where there's any further discussion before we take a vote?
Actually, the motion was tabled. Technically,
Right.
do I have to untable it?
We did two things. We called it tabling, but we tabled it to this meeting. With the intent being, I believe, postponing it till this meeting, and so. Right now, we have it as a postponement to this meeting. That was the intent. If we want to,
Postpone the vote until this meeting.
yes.
So we're in discussion.
I have read the WRK, so basically, and I'm just failing to see. I mean, they didn't have on their fee breakdown $97,500 for construction administration. And when I read through the thing here, it seems like they are the construction manager already. I don't. And then I just don't see what the addition of a construction manager is gonna do that they already haven't said they're doing.
And they do not, they do the engineering services, so they're in charge of the architectural and engineering services, not the actual construction.
Yeah, but it says they're gonna oversee their, consultants. They're gonna be on site weekly, they're taking care of the permits, and.
Yep.
I mean, this is definitely not my line of work, so if somebody wants to,
And so what they will do, they're not technically an order representative, but they will ensure that when they do the engineering and architectural standards, that the contract and the contractors are meeting those standards. So the weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings is basically a project management meeting, a walkthrough. Here's the work we've had so far. Are we on the timeline? I noticed that whatever the construction might be, if it's for framing, there's used 2x4, this is the exterior wall, it should be 2x6, or, and there's the installation area, it's not the installation that's looking at the design phase. That's the contractor side. That's the actual physical area.
Well. Term, and the reason, there's a slight, you read it or not, but you did. There's a motion that alters the wording of the findings. Which doesn't really have anything to do with what you're talking about. Typically, in a CMGC arrangement, your contract manager is your general contractor. You're not hiring two different people for that. We had testimony from previous board member that suggested that we also hire personal owner's representative, thank you, which is not part of any of this. That's merely a suggestion that occurred. So what you're reading is, and I thought the same thing, is there's a certain amount of owner representation that I read that as they do, but that's not what they are. They're the engineer. So whether or not we would need to hire owner's rep, that seems to be a different question later. I don't think that's part of what we're talking about here.
Right.
And it may or may not be the decision that we decide to make later on. My concern is the wording of the findings, which the motion includes the change. I don't know if you have anything to say about that from legal standpoint. You have anything to say about that?
And that was the motion to add the word likely and remove and minimize costly change orders.
Yes.
Correct. And so my understanding is that what we're voting on now includes that change, correct?
Correct. That was the motion. I talked more with the principal from WRK in terms of, I think also the findings of fact, please. And we brought that up, it is boilerplate language, it is language though that is widely used. Like if you search for this, you're gonna bring this up with other school districts as well. It has been language that has been vetted and reviewed by attorneys and it's used regularly. His piece was the language provides a strong stance in order to be able to support the district in using the CMGC process as a method and not risking suit.
And my contention is the language is true. I'm sitting there gonna spend less money. Very likely to spend less money, but there's no certainty around that. That's my.
After watching back the video, from 2 weeks ago, I pulled up some of the OARs and ORSs that were referenced, and the language the OAR uses, I felt kind of, I think this is much better, but the language the OAR uses says the contracting agency must be able to reasonably anticipate the following type of benefits. So as far as findings of fact, and so I think with the language change and reasonably anticipate, because I was hung up to the beginning of that discussion of fact is a fact is fact.
I think one of the things that I took issue with was there was reading and finding of fact. And it basically was saying the board has found. And I was not aware of at that time any discussion the board had regarding the finding of facts. And I've gone back through the minutes and I don't see where the board has had any discussion about the finding of facts. The statement purported we had found. And apparently that's just some boilerplate that was provided by WRK. And I personally don't like words put in my mouth. Now, if 3 or 4 board members vote and say, yes, these are the facts, then yes, I agree with the board has found the facts. The person who's dissenting, it's the board as a whole has found these to be the facts. If the board has never had the discussion, how can we say that the board has found these to be the facts? And so I was, was upfront. And I think what really bothers me is I don't agree with the facts as they state them. I don't believe that to be the truth. I've spent my whole life in the construction industry, as my father did, as my grandfather did, and as my great grandfather did. So I've got kind of a long history in construction, and to see something like that stated as these are the facts, I don't agree with it. And hey, if 3 or 4 of you think that those are the facts, then yes, okay, the board agrees. And I don't like things that seem to be foregone conclusions either. And I can read in WRK's letter proposal from November 8th of 2024. And it says, we understand the district wants to use the CMGC project delivery method, which we wholeheartedly support for this project. So, now this is coming before the board to approve it, when it seems to have been a foregone conclusion. And I don't care for that either. Now, maybe CMGC is the best way to go for this type of project, based on it being a fairly specialized project. Probably not a whole lot of contractors out there who are going to take it on. And I'm sure WRK has a favorite contractor. But, I just, it's kind of like, well, this is the way we get around the design bid build method and go CMGC, throw out these findings of facts, it meets ORS. It's stood up in court, and then you can go pick a contractor. And, I know when the high school was built, there were a lot of problems with CMGC. High school and elementary, so it wasn't, you know, it isn't necessarily all that.
Thought process is that, I mean, as you pointed out, this stuff's been coming to us for several months now. And while we haven't discussed it as a board, the opportunity has been there to discuss it as a board. And since that hasn't occurred, we've had the opportunity, or all of us have had the opportunity to review the documents and to raise concerns in advance if we didn't agree with something that was in there. So there wasn't a request to add it to the agenda in the previous meetings where we discuss what's in these reports, what's in the information that's being provided to us in advance to review. And so I think if we're saying that the board has made a finding of fact, we've done it by reviewing the documents individually and then coming here to vote on it. I don't want to diminish the concerns. The only place I'm coming from is that we've had an opportunity before it came to this vote to discuss these things. And I'm not saying that because we didn't, we shouldn't. But I don't just want to bring that up to address at least the idea that we haven't discussed it as a board. The opportunity's been there to discuss it for quite a while. I hope we saw it before the meeting on the 3rd that was going to be on the agenda to vote on, and had an opportunity at that point to review the documents ahead of that meeting and contact the superintendent to ask if there were at ease set aside until there can be a discussion with the whole board. So I think that that's something that would have been a good way to handle that, so that there could be a little more comprehensive discussion, and maybe to address these concerns in a timely manner, so that if we have concerns about statements of fact that are in there, they can be adjusted like Rusty did last meeting.
And excuse me, you said the 3rd, which Bob?
The meeting we had 2 weeks ago, the board meeting.
Yeah. So. It was brought up on the 3rd.
But during the meeting, there wasn't an advance request to add a discussion portion to the agenda. And a request to the superintendent to say, I've got some concerns about this. I don't feel prepared to vote. Contact the rest of the board. I don't, or the board chair at least, I don't feel prepared to vote on this. I would like to have a discussion. It gets added to the agenda. And if there's concerns that the whole board isn't there, then it's tabled until, or be asked to hold the vote until there's a discussion during this board meeting.
A discussion was inherent in the motion process. I mean, a lot of things are necessary for it probably, but.
Well, that's ultimately it, like, as a result of the discussion, once the motion has been made, if people vote that the motion is passed, and
Some clarification. So tonight is a motion regarding the resolution, the findings of fact. And the other piece that is still coming. So if the CMG so if this resolution were to pass, for instance, the next step would be to go out and do a request for qualifications of the contractor. And there's a similar process, so it's the same process we used when we chose, particularly WK. That, when that's done, will come back to you guys for the contractor. Contractor. The request for qualifications is with, is one in which the qualifications based on the job, is looked at as far as the qualifying factors. And essentially you go through a rubric, you have a committee that will score based on that rubric. And then through that process, based on the qualifications of the contractor, is where it's sufficient standard out. WLK, for example, is one of the main qualities that they have as far as qualifying, is they've done work like this before with the barrel shaped gymnasium.
So the resolution isn't about finding the fact.
The resolution is not, no, tonight, we're not passing a findings of fact. Tonight is about passing the resolution. There is in that, but the rest of the board has reviewed the written findings of fact, supporting the use of construction member general contractor method from Pleasantville High School. That's the mention of the findings of fact, which was the hearing. So we have to have the hearing with the findings of facts. I think it's 10 days after it's been published, that'll be published for another time. Right.
So I think what I stand on is one of your concerns is essentially that we're exempting it from competitive in the competitive bidding process.
And I would add on from my seat on the discussion piece. And this probably many more, but in this specific instance. Not having any background. I don't even know what questions to ask until I hear experts in the field bringing things up, and then I can start to dig in and understand and see what the other side is. And so I guess what I'm saying is, in order for me to have a discussion on a topic I don't know anything about, I need the four of you to bring your expertise, your craft to the table. So I don't always have something until I hear this discussion.
Well, that is what we discussed last meeting, to a much larger. Don't share these concerns about the CMGC process are not the same concerns. I haven't been in it my whole life, but most of it, and have had good and bad experiences for sure, more good than bad. Under these circumstances, with this particular project, I favor the method. I don't like the language, which we changed in the motion. So I'm not not struggling with the methodology on this project. I don't think it does avoid the competitive bid process. Well, yes, it does in one respect. It's not the same process. You still have to have qualified people provide opportunities for you to decide whether they're good for you or not. That still exists, and you can tell them they're not. So I don't have that concern. Or at least as much as I'm concerned. I've seen them gone wrong as well, for sure. They don't always work, which is why I have a problem with language. So my angst is not with the method.
Oh, you're referring to as the board meeting we had on the third, correct?
You know, so the other type of process is similar to what we did, exactly like we did with the forestry building. Where you do work with an engineer or an architect, they come up with the design. And then that design goes out for bid, we get the lowest bidder for it. Challenges in that process is the contractor that bids it is not part of the design process, and so in my experience in doing it, is the room for error and having to be on site with them regularly, managing their work and making sure that their work matches what was in the design process. It doesn't take care of all the issues, whereas this one would be, they're part of the design process with the engineer and the architect, and then they can kind of the contract with that, once the construction starts.
My other thought has been, you know, like, this is a significant project, and I don't want Jim spending 30-50% of his time managing a contractor. That's not what we asked him to do, it's not what we pay him to do. So that's the devil's advocate side, I guess, of what's been going through my mind.
Jim, I'm kind of confused because, I mean, if I'm, this is the right one that I have here in the packet, it says. Approves and adopts findings of fact supporting the use and method for Pleasant Hill seismic rehabilitation project. Second page of that document.
Yes.
So, I mean, if this is the correct one, then that's what it, that's again, it's a. Put it out there pretty specific, pretty. Directly that we're adopting the findings of fact,
Correct.
so,
Those findings are what was.
and it's, those findings of facts are 1 through 5 above, correct?
Those are, I would say,
Or
a
a
summary
summary
of them. The findings of fact get into more detail than those. Say, Kurt Hagan spoke, did not speak as a contractor in terms of either for or against. The use of it. We go suggestions based on past experience. So there was, probably, I think of these as testimony. They didn't speak during the public hearing portion of it. I think that the church did that.
Yeah, from our last couple of meetings, I know as much as Jennifer does. Much under his, but, I mean, if this is the method that the district feels is appropriate to use for this specific project, then I don't have a reason to speak out against it, and I agree with Rusty's changing of the language, which also makes sense to me. And makes it, more realistic, yes, its assumptions.
More accurate, actually.
Yeah.
Bill, when you're saying that the district ran into issues. With the renovations to the high school, was that through this process or through a particular contractor?
It was, mostly the contractor.
Okay.
I would,
Do you have an example? Just out of
well, one of the issues with that process was, getting permits to move forward. And, the contractor, eventually, the district started putting more pressure on the county to get the county moving on permits for the school. And that should have been done a lot earlier in the process. Well, the contractor, part of the thing is the contractor's here. The contractor's on site, the contractor's getting paid every month. And so if it takes 9 months to get the permits, doesn't hurt the contractor any. They're still collecting their management fee for all of those months. And at the school district, we were, geez, why can't we get permits? Why can't we get permits? And we were at the point where we wanted to go down and, get politically involved, county commissioners, get involved with the newspaper and say, hey, look what this is costing a school. And, I mean, that's one example. And, then the contractor gets to select the subcontractors that they're going to get subcontractor bids from. And then they can get 2 or 3 subcontractor bids. And they look and they say, well, maybe we can do it cheaper ourselves. So they're kind of bidding against their subcontractors. And in the industry, sometimes they're accused of cherry picking the subcontractors. Getting the high bids, right? So then when they bid on it, it looks better and they do it themselves. I'm not saying that happened here. I wasn't involved to the level to know what happened there. But, it just seemed like there were some other discussions as to the roof on the building, composition roof versus a metal. And there's the question of what would it cost to put a metal roof on the building instead of composition? As well, you don't have enough money for metal. What's the cost? Well, the contractor says we have to go back to the architect, get drawings basically to compare costs, and then you're gonna get charged a lot for the drawings. And that happened with the gym, looking at tilt-up construction versus concrete block. They had to go through the whole process of making that drawings. And I think a good CMGC contractor would have used some other resources. Their companies could go out there and they'll give you a 90% cost on something. Or the contractor themselves will have a way of estimating that. So you can use comparables. But instead the district wasted some money. I think some of them might want CMGC's pocket. And I didn't like the process.
But to be fair, that absolutely gonna happen in the design bid build. It's the contractor, it's not the
Yeah.
process.
The design bid bill, the person who bids on it either bills it for that price or then they have change orders. And, certainly with the delays in getting permits, they've been asking for change orders if they get moved in and the demolition and things like that.
Right.
But, to say that it's going to be cheaper with CMGC, more efficient with CMGC, maybe, maybe not. It kind of depends upon the project. Again, this is a specialized project. I'm sure that's why the designer, architect, suggested their wants or desires to CMGC method. But I just, I have obviously issues with the finding of facts. And I guess the process that got us here, the finding of facts is kind of the red flag. And I had not read those until prior to the meeting 2 weeks ago, the finding of facts. And I don't know if those were supposedly published 14 days prior to that,
They were, yeah.
somewhere.
They're. Yeah, DJC.
Yeah, so I didn't see those in the Daily Journal of Commerce finding of facts, right? You're saying the DJC?
That is where they were published, yes.
Yeah.
Kind of getting. Style that we use, the current method, if the learning process is not complete and well thought out, it's going to lead to process or problems down the road. If you don't have an architect or an engineer, staying on top of the contractor, and what they're doing, and make sure that they're following the design process issues as well. Which was the information I sent out there. What represented these for us.
Like you say earlier, it's, the actual contract hasn't been decided, and that's something that the board reviews after this stuff.
Yes. So if this is approved, the next step would be through WRK will help in the process as far as the request for qualifications. We go through that process, then we would bring a recommendation for contractor to build with your. That was a similar, that was really the same process we did with WRK.
It reminds me, does that mean they come to us with one contractor? Did they indicate what other contractors they looked at?
I'd have to go back and look. There won't be an indication of who was looked at. It will be an indication of what it is that, the findings that led us to believe that this is the best contractor for this particular job, based off the qualifications that we're looking for. And that hasn't, I mean, WRK, it has, I think it's at that times, but generally hasn't been done.
Really understanding of the concerns. And so when you're talking specifically about the finding of facts, and that was just put out before the weeks before the March 3rd board meeting. I want to just echo what Jen said. Also not having any kind of experience, expertise in this realm, that we would have. I don't want to put this out there as any kind of criticism. I'm just further explaining my thought process that I was talking about earlier. Leading up to that board, that March 3rd meeting, I have concerns because I do have tons of experience, both myself and through my family. Jim or Steve, I would like to add a thing to I'd like to add to the agenda that we discuss this before there's a vote on it, and then my preference would actually be that we wait until the full board is there to discuss it further, so I can share my expertise with those. But I also don't want to see that I'm diminishing the concerns that you're bringing because it wasn't done that way. Your concerns are still valid. Is there any other? This is just a summary of the finding of facts. So basically, the concern you still have in regards to the finding of facts that this is the preferred method.
I think it, no, John, it's okay. I think it's the absoluteness of the way in which the findings of fact were stated.
But I was just curious, which part specifically? I know it's absolute, but there's no wiggle room there. I'm just trying to narrow down which part of it.
There was,
Make sure I understand John's concerns.
when I'm saying the majority of it, because almost every statement says the board. Board believes the board, finds the board, yeah. Is that way, I'm gonna venture to guess this, that if we went back. To an attorney that deals in this and said, can you change this language? They would probably say, yes, we certainly can. Will it be as resolute as it is now, given that it's been reviewed and used many times and probably have stood the test of time? I think that's, it is important that some of us just remind ourselves that this is boilerplate language for a reason. It's been reviewed by juries over.
Does the district's attorney review this?
Table changes the language.
Not for the findings of fact, it changes it for the, it changes the resolution language.
It changes the resolution.
Yeah, so the motion on the table is, so in number one. The CMGC method likely reduces financial risk by ensuring the contract of financial stability, establish a guaranteed maximum price, and it removes and minimizing costly change.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was under number one.
Yeah, correct.
On the first page, because I don't see likely on there.
It's not, it's in the motion in the minutes. Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make, I'm just clarifying, because I want to make sure that whatever we're voting. Like, I'm just looking at what's in the board packet. And I assume I just assume that's what we would be voting on, so that's why I was clarifying.
So the motion was made by Rusty, seconded by Drew. To approve the resolution with the following edit, number one, substantial. cost
Okay,
savings.
so it's not gonna take effect until the actual. Until the actual vote. I understand that, I apologize. Okay, I thought. Okay.
What he might be thinking is, it was just for this one single project.
Yeah.
It's not going to be just for every other project that's happening. Need to build other things, then we'll just consider that unless there's some reason not to. So. And the district and the VR thinks this will work best for this one, then. Fine. For
Discussion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay,
Passes 4-1. Seven or discussion 7.1, review policy PCF.
Getting closer to bringing district equity committee members to you for approval, so that we get to go review of our advisory committees to the board policy, so it's PCF, which we adopted in September of 2010. I'd say the highlights to this is third paragraph, all meetings and advisory committees shall be considered open meetings. The press may attend and report proceedings, visitors shall sit apart from the committee members who shall speak only with provided to so by committee chairman. There's currently with the new law regarding, recording public meetings and the posting of those recorded meetings. This right now, the way it's written and the way it's been viewed is would include the district equity committee as well. It is back up there and safe and being looked at, by the legislative team to see if that really was the intent. Because what they've heard from districts that have already put this into place is that the district equity committee said, listen, if that's the case, and then it's certainly this is good for you. Talk about, personal issues or things that I see, and feel comfortable in that, now recorded and put out. So that is still some information to go with. The guidelines, and sort of maybe the next piece here, but the board will adopt guidelines for each committee as appropriate, which shall include but not be limited to the following. One, the committee's written charge, which shall include but not be limited to a statement of purpose and responsibility, the resources the board will provide. And three, the length of time the committee is asked to serve and the approximate dates on which the board wishes to receive committee reports. Anyway, that's the base, and that really leads into, if we're ready, to the draft guidelines that I provided for you guys to review tonight, this discussion. And so, purpose, Educational Equity Committee or District Equity Committees established in accordance with Senate Bill 732 is to provide guidance to the Berlin School District, Board, and Superintendent regarding the educational equity impacts of district policies and practices. Committee's primary role would include advising the school board and superintendent of the equity impacts of policy decisions, identifying and informing the board about situations that negatively impact underrepresented students, along with recommendations for resolution. And third bullet is highlighting and sharing effective strategies when a school positively impacts underrepresented students with guiding on how to replicate success district-wide. The goals of the committee. Committee would be dedicated to fostering an inclusive educational environment that reflects and prioritizes diverse perspectives. The committee will create a structured space for the sharing and examination of information with a focus on amplifying underrepresented voices and fostering meaningful engagement across the district. Can you guys hear me okay?
It's a little hard to hear.
My voice starts talking. The committee composition and membership. So the district committee, and this has already been brought forward in previous meetings as well, but look to be composed of 6 to 12 members, ensuring broad representation across different groups. So 2 to 3 students in grades 7 through 12, 2 to 3 staff members, 2 to 3 parent and caregivers, and 1 to 2 community partners. An additional role, so the committee is required to have 1 member that also serves on the district's budget committee when a vacancy occurs, ensuring equity considerations are integrated into financial decision making. And the term lengths, students serve for 1 year, parents, caregivers, staff, and community partners serve for 2 years with an option to extend to 3 years. Application review process to ensure a fair and transparent selection process. The district will utilize a subcommittee of the District Equity Committee and leadership team to screen and evaluate applications for open positions. So obviously, we've got to go through this process first, with basically a subcommittee, a leadership group that I'll put together, bring those names for you guys for approval. But then once openings come up, that's where I would suggest that we have a subcommittee of the Equity Committee that works to suggest appointments for openings to the board. So subcommittee would select a process ensures the maintenance of the committee composition and membership stated under number 3. And then the superintendent would make recommendations to the board of directors for committee placement. Number 5, meeting structure and expectations. Committee will meet 2 to 3 times during the school year with additional meetings as needed. Committee will annually select a facilitator and co-facilitator. Meetings will be no more than 2 hours in the early evening. Dinner and child care may be provided. And members will have the option to present to the school board where it is not required. Number 6, responsibilities and decision-making processes. The Equity Committee will advise on equity-related issues, identify systemic barriers affecting underrepresented students, provide actionable recommendations to district leadership, and then inform policy and decision-making by evaluating the equity impact of district policies and initiatives, recommend culturally responsive strategies for improving educational outcomes. Number 7, reporting and accountability. The equity committee may submit reports to the superintendent and school board as needed. An end of year summary will highlight key recommendations, challenges, and progress. School board will review and respond to the equity committee recommendations, ensuring accountability and transparency. The equity committee will operate as an advisory board and may be dissolved if its purpose is fulfilled. Process for resignation or removal. Committee members are expected to actively participate in meetings and contribute to discussions. If a member is unable to fulfill their commitment, the following process will apply. Resignation. So a member wishing to resign must submit a written notice to the superintendent. Resignation should include the effective date. Removal. A committee member may be removed for repeated unexcused absences. As an example, 2 or more consecutive meetings without prior notice. Conduct that is disruptive, discriminatory, or inconsistent with the committee's purpose. And third bullet point, failure to uphold the values of the committee. Process for removal. Superintendent or committee facilitator will provide a verbal or written warning outlining concerns. If the concerns persist, the member may be recommended for removal to the Board of Educators by majority vote by the committee. The replacement may be appointed based on the selection process outlined in section number 4. For you, just for discussion tonight, we can put them in a later meeting. But they reflect the policy on our advisory committees to the board. Yes.
From all those different categories.
Every category.
And then so what group of people will bring recommendations for the first time here? Have you decided that, or who's reviewing that?
So once the committee met, if those recommendations that came out of the committee.
Well, the committee doesn't exist yet, so who's reviewing these for them?
Oh, it will be, I'm not privy to it. I'm gonna have, maybe the building leadership to go through. I don't see right now anything that would say, well, we've got 11 applicants and we fill the roles. I can foresee that we're gonna bring those these legal recommendation.
And when,
What's that?
this is all getting put in place, it's all getting put in place for the beginning of next year, right?
Correct. I would anticipate that there would be some onboarding, perhaps August, it's just as far as orientating and setting up a meeting schedule. So it says, yeah, those really takes work for me, and then probably our first meeting in September.
How many open boards or budget committees do we have?
We currently have 2 budget committee openings and 1 complete application.
It won't help us this year, but we would want to just have one of those 5 seats, or I think it's 5, one of those 5 be in it, from this committee, or we can add another seat, that would be 6.
I think adding a seat, share would be probably the resolution by the board, having more budget committee seat.
Or do you have a recommendation either way, or have you thought about that?
You know, I will check to see with our current budget committees, members, if there would be any that would be ending after this year.
Right.
In which case, I think, start meeting as a committee and have one of those, just the facilitation process, right, and we start next year.
I believe one is done this year.
Yeah.
So it's one for them. Is the budget committee piece a requirement? Is that meeting an OAR requirement? Is it a budget committee member who's on this committee, or is it somebody on this committee on the budget? Which comes first?
This committee, a member from this committee would become a budget committee member.
But we don't know who that is when they're applying.
No,
And are they applying to do that in any way, or they just apply, like someone's gonna get a surprise?
I believe we got one.
Still both roles, right?
I believe in the, I'd have to go back and review it, but in the advertisements, in the fine print somewhere, it did talk about a budget committee member, but I could be wrong as well.
And we just hope that they meet one of these required, well, it won't be a student.
And it can't
So
be Saturday.
we're just hoping that they're in the other three categories, and if they're not, what do we do? I mean, maybe.
Go ask Morgan.
There just seems like an odd, I get it. But it just
Yeah.
seems like a very odd thing to force somebody to do.
I would say this, if we put together a committee, there was 12 members, and through that process, all 12 members just said absolutely not. And we don't have an equity committee, it's on the, I just need to know the answer to the state.
I think that's what you said before, I mean, I think you feel better.
Yeah, here's our minutes from our meeting and. No volunteers.
And I'm sorry, how big can the committee be, or how small?
We're looking between 6 and 12 members.
And there's no requirement, there's at least 6 and not more than 12, or we just decided that's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the timeline for the people who apply, like when will they hear back? What's that gonna start?
I plan on a June meeting as far as bringing the recommendations to you, so specifically this.
Also,
We're in that time frame right now that if we need to have interviews, or if there's questions during the, part of the application process allows them to say, you know, I understand that this have some additional time, perhaps in the evenings.
Right.
There are issues with that, and so there's a couple of comments in there that require you to get back with operators to talk, get more information. But basically now, between now and
Within the next couple of months. Yeah.
So brings us to 8.0 reports of information and component financial report.
I just did it, excuse me, I'm much of a voice either. I did a quick synopsis of our, February 28 financial statement. We have received 3.5 million of our imposed 3.7 million property taxes. We have 192,000 left to be collected. We received 6.7 million in state school fund payments. We will get 2,029,000 more before the year is over. This amount is 59,000 less than budget. It's a combination. We're getting some less because our increase, our enrollment is decreased from what we projected a year ago. Excuse me. And then we've increased our transportation costs, so they'll actually give us a little more reimbursement on that to a net of 59,000 less. We received 435,000 in interest from investments. We received 64,000 in curricular activity, which includes athletic fees, group fees, and other student activities. Expenditures, our salaries through February is 3,408,000. Our benefits are 1,922,000. The salary and benefits together account for 77% of our expenses outside of the transfers that we make. And the purchase service supplies and capital outlay is currently 1,565,000.
You know what budgeted for interest on investments or income on investments
525,000.
for the year?
So we have 4 more months. It's been averaging about 55,000 a month. So I think we're gonna be in decent shape. We're at 435. The rate does keep inching down. On LGIP.
Okay, so I saw on the list that we had submitted for SIA funds.
Yes. That shows up in our special funds, and this is a recap of general funds. Special funds incorporate so many different things, it's kind of hard to attach it to budget in the same way.
OSBA in their newsletter had a thing about it being. But we're.
I would say, you claim on SAA, you claim after you spend, so we do usually forward claims, but they've asked us to do it more often. Yeah, the instability in the federal level.
Your concerns? All right. And what else for the communication 9.1, district equity committee?
Yes, active rate cooking. So this is right now an applicant summary. So we have received 11 applicants so far. The representation breakdown. So we've got, and some of these understand that there are, the reason I say person of color is 1 to 2 members, is they might identify as more than one. And so a person of color, 1 to 2 members, tribal membership, you know, 1 to 2 members, English language learners, 1 to 2 members, the LGBTQ plus community, 1 to 2 members, students with disabilities, caregivers, and students with disabilities, 1 to 2 members, individuals experiencing surviving poverty or houselessness is 1 to 2 members. The committee applicants demonstrated the representation across multiple identities, ensuring a range of lived experiences that are considered in district equity discussions. So the key applicant motivations and experiences, and again, these are represented by what the applicants expressed in their application. So a wide range of motivations for joining the committee, a desire to advocate for marginalized students, so students of color, for example, commitment to ensuring all students feel safe, valued, and included in the Pleasant School District, professional and lived experience in equity-focused organizations, including roles in education, mental health, advocacy, and community services, firsthand experiences with systemic challenges in education, offering insights into how the district can improve support for historically underserved groups, and involvement in student organizations. Many applicants also highlighted their professional expertise, which included work with early childhood education, disability services, mental health, and community equity organizations, experience as educators, counselors, and advocates of public education, leadership at local and state equity and inclusion initiatives. The proposed membership aligns with the requirements by the Senate bill. Representation of underserved students groups is met with applicants identifying across various required categories. The committee includes multiple perspectives, including parents, students, staff, and community members, and the committee's composition ensures intersectional representation is required by the statute. The next steps, so we want to finalize membership with the board in June of 2025. Address any gaps, which we don't see right now. Provide orientation and training, again, which we're looking at August or September of 2025, and set a meeting schedule, again, to happen sometime in August of 2025.
Mr. Thomas, I know that you expressed desire. We do, as I stated earlier, they can allow for additional public comment during specific item discussion of specific items. Do you have anything else you wanted to add? Do so now.
I filled out my budget application. So I'm ready for, I'm late for the interview. I don't In that, does it say, it's not mandatory that there's a report or anything from the committee? It's just a.
Point one, committee or community news announcements.
It's packed and hot. But participation side, kids did great. Went to Mr. Billy Saturday. Lots of laps, lots of the. Man, the things kids come up with. Great. Golden.
I wasn't at the last board meeting because I was chaperoning the band trip to the jazz festival at the College of Pacific in California. It was a lot of fun. And I'm sure everybody saw the emails we got from all the students. But I mean, we didn't even need to, I mean, I was there, so I get to see like the impact it's having, but you can tell it means a lot to all those kids. And the person who did the clinic at the festival was fantastic, and several of our students were asking her questions. It was just a big crowd there, and everybody was able to ask questions, and several of our students were asking her questions. It's directly applicable to what our students are learning and trying to accomplish. It was a great trip. That's one other business. Forgive me, you said your name earlier, Miss Derek.
Yeah.
You said that you might have something else to share.
I just heard some feedback from the parents of a turf project that was supposed to be happening for softball, baseball. They just wanted me to kind of come in and check up on that. From my understanding, it was a booster club project. It kind of got halted in the middle of the football field project. So, I have girls that are dying for a turf field and we're willing to do the work and auction and working with the booster. And so I just want that to be a priority in our school district and anything that we need to do to make it a priority, that's what we want to do. And get that right there.
Since we're talking, since you brought it up, what are some of the benefits that you say that they're looking forward to it? I do not play baseball, so.
No, absolutely. So this time of year, it's just really tough to get games in with the weather, and with the turf, it would just allow us to cut back on those cancellations because our infield wouldn't be underwater. In our outfield, that there's things that we can do to that to make it, so if we have turf, we can play a lot of those games in the spring that we're having to cancel. Today, we had a game, we had to cancel it just because there's no way we're playing on that field. How do you have turf? That's a 50-50 shot of maybe getting out there and playing that game. It also just helped with what we're trying to do in developing our youth programs, giving them a little bit more resources to use our fields. We've opened up the opportunity for our youth programs to use our field. Come midsummer, when it gets really, really dry on the softball fields, some of that upkeep would be prevented with a turf facility. The dirt in the holes that you get from just the wear and tear of the softball season over time. And so it's not only just a project for our program, but it would help advancements in all of our youth program and be able to use our turf facility. We keep the outfield grass from my understanding, so there's ways around that, putting some more sand in the trenches to just help it drain better. And then we would still have our infield, which would just expand opportunities for the girls to practice on turf, but also have the opportunity to practice on dirt if we were going to a playoff game and I wanted to prepare Ryan started. So all else, I just think it's a kid project in our community. I've been talking to a lot of people about just what they want to do with the youth side of things, and we're more than willing to share our facilities with our youth, because I think it's important that they also have access to it as well.
Just for clarification, in regards to any fundraising that may have been occurring, in regards to that project, that wasn't like approved or halted or anything by the board. Anything that the board is aware of is from separate conversations with individual board members, nothing that the ministers have come and talked to the board about, just to clarify.
Yeah, that's great. I'm learning a lot from different people, so here I am, and I wanted to talk to you guys first, and if it's another conversation with the board or the booster. I think that we should all just be looped in on it and kind of on the same understanding of, because it's a big chunk of money, and we need to know why we're spending that money and what it's gonna go towards. So I just like to reopen that door that's been shut or just closed a little bit, but I think it's really important that we put it back on the table.
And I did actually attend one of their recent meetings, I think it was February, and I don't know if it's the sole reason, but I know one of the setbacks was that the Corps of Engineers had offered to do a bunch of the excavation at like reduced costs or free. And then suddenly they weren't able to do that, and I think that may have been a big setback in their project. I don't know that it's necessarily completely done, but something else to keep in mind, since you're here, we've got some other folks from the community, we discussed it at another board meeting, at a different board meeting, but we're redoing the turf in the football field, talking about doing an expensive turf project for the baseball field. We need to, as a community and as a district, think about future 4th of July celebrations that happen on the campus, because when I was here the last 4th of July to watch the fireworks from the church, I know that it's packed and there's people doing their own fireworks on campus, and there's a bunch of stuff occurring on the turf football field. Probably isn't going to help its maintenance. And so if we're going to be making those investments, we need to make sure that the community gets an opportunity to use the facilities appropriately in a way that doesn't negatively impact the resources that the district has. We've fortunately had a fund that we were saving up on in anticipation of having to replace the turf. It would be really unfortunate if we got replacing any of those things prematurely because we're not taking care of it as a community. So, yeah. Thank you very much, and again, welcome to the district.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
I saw somebody else waving their hand. I wasn't
You
sure.
asked it. You were asking about community, our OBOB team, our 5th grade OBOB team at regionals on Saturday and came in 3rd out of 28 teams. Unfortunately, the top 2 gets to go next month. There's still an opportunity for a wild card that we're crossing our fingers on, but pretty great to put Pleasant Hill on the map against some of the bigger school districts. Worked hard. They did well. So,
Thank you very much. And congratulate them for us, please. I'm sure they'll be like, who? You know, we make signs for them once a year.
And Molly, with the help of Nicola, were in charge of OBOB, so big thank you to them. They put in a lot of time and effort and did an amazing job.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, so that brings us to 12.0, to recess our regular meeting to executive session under ORS 192.660. To review and evaluate the performance of the superintendent. We will resume regular board meeting afterwards, but I know at that point we will be providing superintendent evaluation and approving the superintendent evaluation in case any of the auditors members want to stick around for that. But when we are convening for executive session, that has to be done. I will adjourn